Frequency Podcast Network. Stories that matter, podcasts that resonate.
He's in the building!
Drink the moment. Drink it.
I said empty your mind.
Coquettish and coy. Ow. Ow.
What?
And there's people that are dying.
The wickedly talented.
More than great. It was historic.
Crack is
What?
Oh, good for you.
I have to apologize.
One of the hottest.
Welcome back to The Reheat, a podcast that re-examines the wildest celebrity news and scandals of yesteryear and asks, how would we react to the same events if they had transpired today? I'm Sarah Sahagian.
And I'm Steph Hassan, and this week is yet another hot off the press. And today we're going to talk Oscars, because they just announced the nominations. And as always, Sarah and I have so many thoughts, tons of snubs, tons of surprises, also some really delicious nominations. Let's get into it. Sarah, let me ask you right off the bat, what's some of the nominations that you loved seeing?
So I've never been a huge Demi Moore fan, but now I'm all about her being nominated. I actually want her to win for The Substance. I am rooting for her. I'm liking the story. Her Golden Globe speech was wonderful. I mean, it was perfectly calibrated, right, about how she'd been told she was a popcorn actress and had basically given up on herself. Mm-hmm. So I'm all in on that narrative, but I am sad Pamela Anderson wasn't nominated. What about you, Sadaf?
Oh gosh, you echoed my thoughts exactly. I loved The Substance. That was my favorite movie of the year. Please watch it if you haven't already. I have fallen so deeply in love with Demi Moore. I was already a bit of a fan, but now I'm like a true fan. And God, that speech that she did at the Golden Globes that you just referenced, Sarah, I loved so deeply. This woman has never been nominated or won anything. And for her to now get an Oscar nomination at this age for this particular role, which has a lot to do with women in the industry, getting older, looking different. It's kind of poetic. I hope she wins so deeply. It's a little bit of a competitive category, but I'm really thrilled for her. But yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth, Sarah. I'm really sad not to see any Pam there. I haven't seen The Last Showgirl yet. I'm going this weekend, but that is my girl. I'm so sad I didn't see her up there. And Sarah, you and I were talking about this just before, but no Nicole Kidman. I love my Nicole. She's probably my number one, and I'm devastated not to see her up there. No nominations for Baby Girl. Tell me why this is a travesty.
It is, and you know what? This makes me think the Academy hasn't really changed its taste fully, right? I mean, I know they've been trying to evolve and get with the times, and are they doing as badly as they were 10 years ago? No. Yes, they have improved, but they still can't appreciate art that isn't safe, I would say, yes. Right? And I'm not talking about, I don't think Baby Girl is problematic. It's just asking really big questions. It's not tidy. It's showing you Nicole Kidman in a way that you haven't seen her before. Like it's, yes, she's put on a prosthetic nose to look ugly, to play Virginia Woolf, quote unquote, ugly, right? I don't actually mean that. But these are some sex scenes where, they're realistic. She doesn't look great. It shows you the sort of brutality of the sex lots of people want to have, but also the beauty of it and the consensual nature of BDSM, but also asks questions about power and privilege and who really is in control in a BDSM relationship. So I think it was just maybe too intellectual. Like, I don't know if the Academy wants to think that much.
Maybe. We're talking about Baby Girl, which I loved you and I both loved so deeply. That was probably my second fave last year. But and by the way, I counter that Nicole did look great. If anything, I guess what we should say is that she looked normal. She had a normal body. And maybe all of that is scary, for the voting body. But here's what one of the most interesting conversations I had this week about the Oscar nominations was with a student of mine. We were raving about The Substance getting nominated because movies like that never get awards attention ever. Because not only is it a horror movie, but it's very abstract. It's a lot of body horror. It's just not the kind of thing that ever gets noticed. I was shocked to see it was nominated. And he suggested that maybe it's because this time around there just wasn't enough great movies, or the Academy wasn't paying attention to everything else that was out there. Because not only did The Substance manage to get in, Wicked got in. I've never seen a musical of that caliber get this many Oscar nominations.
I know.
And here's the thing. I fucking love that movie. I do think
I did
it was
too.
a masterpiece. Yeah. I think they're both absolutely worth all the Oscar nominations. But I end up asking, how did that happen? And I don't know that I'm with him, that it's so much that it was less exciting stuff that was out there. I think there was a lot of good stuff out there. But I'm with you. I kind of just always wonder, what the hell's the criteria?
Well, I think it says so much about the vibe we're in. It's like when Chicago won, right?
Oh.
So Chicago, which came out in 2002, at the time it won, America wasn't, morale was low, right? It was it came out in 2002, 9/11 happened in 2001, right? So America was still reeling from that. America under George W. Bush was entering lots of wars, right? Like it was not a great time for morale. And I think people wanted something that would make them happy and make them feel good. Something well made that was entertaining and would actually make you forget your troubles. And we are in a similar time. In fact, it depends. It's hard to compare that era with this era, but this era is at least as frightening. Probably more so. And so escapism and going to see a true Hollywood epic, an epic musical, I think is appealing again. So to me, this is giving Chicago vibes. I think it might win. I think it might win for the same reason Chicago won the year it was nominated, because it was a well-made movie that all the Academy members wanted to see, right? It wasn't a chore. It was fun. And I mean, yes, Wicked has a message, and it has a message that is appropriate for these times. But if you don't want to think about the message, you can enjoy the movie also on a purely superficial level as entertainment.
100%. You're so right. And wow, that's a really interesting theory. And I think I'm with you. I also think, kind of piggybacking on that a little bit, I think more and more awards bodies are looking at what is popular. Like we saw at the Golden Globes, they added an entire award just for the movie with the best box office, which I personally think is a bit ludicrous. That movie's already winning a financial award.
I know. That's the prize. That's what the money is for, to quote Don Draper.
There you go. Yeah. So I think it's a little bit of bullshit. Because if anything, what these awards are meant to do, they're supposed to recognize the art. But hey, Sarah and I know very well that all of this is bullshit, because it doesn't actually mean anything. An awards show never gets all the great stuff. It never finds the actual best actress or best picture, because there's so much out there. It's impossible. So really, we shouldn't be giving them even half the credit that we do. But we enjoy award season because we love a red carpet. We love the glitz and the glam. But it's so hard not to get pissed off sometimes when they just miss our favorites. And I feel like quite a few of mine were missed this time.
Well, what else was missing that you really wanted to see on the list?
So I feel like for me, it's more individuals. I was sad to see not only Pam and Nicole, but also Angelina didn't get a nomination for Maria. Daniel Craig wasn't nominated for Queer.
Yeah.
And then, you have like a Timothée Chalamet who's nominated for A Complete Unknown. I'll be honest, I haven't seen the movie yet. That is not a good young actor. He's not. I'm sorry. And how did Monica Barbaro sneak in? Maybe she also gives a great performance, but I don't know. And Danielle Deadwyler for The Piano Lesson, she didn't get a nomination. I don't know. What about Denzel Washington for Gladiator 2?
Okay, I love Denzel Washington, but like he wouldn't even do an accent for that movie. I feel like he would even tell you that wasn't my best work. I didn't try my hardest, right? Like if he'd given it his all, I'd be more upset, but he did not give it his all. I love him. He's one of the greatest actors of his generation. He was phoning it in. He's like, I'll do this movie because the costumes look comfortable, and that's it.
You know what? That's a really good point. I think I just love the man too much, but you're right. But you know what's interesting? As I was talking, I'm realizing the Oscars shut out a lot of their A plus gold stars of all time. Like we're talking Nicole, Pam,
Yeah.
Denzel, Daniel Craig. These are huge names. It is
Amy
really
Adams.
interesting.
Amy Adams didn't get a nomination for Night Bitch. That woman, the Academy never gives her an Oscar, but they always nominate her. And Night Bitch is one of her better, more interesting roles, I actually think. It was, and similarly, like Baby Girl, it's complicated. It's about femininity and the unsavory parts that we don't always talk about, or not the parts society sees as unsavory, not that are unsavory. And I think that's a similar thing, even though it's about motherhood and not, your sexuality. I think people are just uncomfortable with seeing messy stories about women still.
I think you're totally right. And the other pattern I see there is they're all directed by women. I mean, that's a little sad. The substance.
Yep,
somehow
that's an
slipped
important
in.
factor. Gia Coppola she directed The Last Showgirl, and Pamela didn't get her nomination that she deserved, right? Like, yeah, I think we underestimate how misogynistic the Academy is when it comes to female directors. Yes, we do have one female director nominated for Best Director. They do that now, I think, pretty much because they have to.
They have to check it
I
off
am
the
alleging
list.
a conspiracy. They have to have one woman or everyone's up in arms. But the truth is there were several women who could have been nominated this year. You could have had 3 nominations and it still would have been meritocratic.
Yeah, I'm really sad to see that. And I would also just throw in that it's a lot of white nominees.
Yep.
I don't understand how Wicked got so many nominations and yet John Chu didn't get anything for directing. Like that movie is a masterpiece largely because of him. That is the man who directed Crazy Rich Asians and made it incredible. You know what I'm saying? Like, he didn't even get a Golden Globe nomination. That really bothers me. And speaking of which, just generally speaking, there's not really many Asian nominees on the board. That's devastating.
No. Yeah, for all the Academy has said it cares about diversity now. Like, you can see the proof is in the pudding, because if you create one of the most successful movies of the year that gets nominations, people act like it directed itself. It's the same thing that happened with Barbie and Little Women, right? Where it's like, we're acting like it directed itself. No, these movies, especially a movie like Wicked, where every piece matters. The editing matters, the acting matters, the musical direction, the costumes, the set, everything is so important. The person keeping it all together is the director. That's where you really deserve the nomination, when you direct an epic like that, in my opinion.
Yes, I think so too. It bothers me. I was sad to see nothing for All We Imagine Is Light, which was the Indian entry for the Oscars. I don't know. It's just it's a very pale nominees list. I will say we got in Cynthia Erivo, which is great because she did turn in such an incredible performance.
Yeah.
And Coleman Domingo, who I love so deeply, and I really think might be like one of the greatest actors of this next generation. He's nominated for Sing Sing. If you want to cry a lot, go watch Sing Sing, which, by the way, is the first movie ever to open in theaters and in prisons at the same time. Go see it. But yeah, it does look like they're honoring a lot of what is the young new class of actors and filmmakers, and then at the same time are still very much trapped in the male perspective. If you just take a look at the Best Picture nominees, that's a lot of what I'm seeing. It's not ideal. And then somehow the substance snuck in. I don't know what the hell it's doing there, but I'm so thankful. But they had to give us one. They had to give us one, but I can imagine it's going to walk out of there with nothing. I hate to say it, but I'm crossing my fingers for Demi. If anything, I think she's the one who might pick.
She's its best chance. Like, she is a good campaigner. We're seeing, like, she is Jamie Lee Curtis level good at campaigning. I think she probably has a lot of goodwill in the industry. Like, I don't know, but I imagine she does. So I would think she has a decent chance. But you know what? They love giving it to an ingenue. So Mikey Madison could walk away with it. And that performance in Anora is great. And I like Mikey Madison. But at the same time, I hate that the Oscar for Best Actress is often viewed as like a young person's achievement award. Like, they just love giving it to an ingenue so much. And when performances are roughly equal, right? And I would say that Demi and Mikey, those are roughly equal performances. For me, I would just prefer to give it to the person who's proven themselves more, right? If all things being considered, that should be the tiebreaker rather than all things being considered, who's the most nubile, which is basically what the Academy seems to ask themselves.
God, that word gives me chills, but you're absolutely right. However, I will counter you because Fernanda Torres is nominated as well in that same category for I'm Still Here. She's a Brazilian actress. She won the Golden Globe just a few months ago. And here's what's so fun about this one. Her mom, who is a huge, huge actress in Brazil, she was the first and I believe only, but correct me if I'm wrong, Brazilian to win that award. And now also the only one to be nominated, and now Fernanda is repeating her achievement, so she's the second one, and so there's a very good chance she'll get it. I mean,
which would be great.
It would be great. She's so incredible in that movie. It's another great performance. It's an interesting category, let's put it that way. I think it'll be a little bit of surprise no matter who wins it, but I'm really crossing my fingers for Demi. If Fernanda gets it, that's lovely too, but I think for Cynthia and Mikey, they're going to be nominated again. Like, they'll be fine. They don't need this one. That's how I feel. Even though I loved them both and they were both phenomenal in their performances.
Well, for Ariana, the nomination is the win. Like in that case, right? She's cementing herself as an actress. She is trying to do what Lady Gaga did a few years ago when she got really serious about movies. Like, I think she's trying to show, I'm an actress. You can cast me, right? Like, and so the nomination's the win no matter what happens for Ariana. I do think Cynthia would probably like to win and would benefit from winning because she's a more established actress. But she could also win next time, right? There is Wicked for Good. So I don't know if she's going to win this time just because people could wait for next time. And that is the biggest challenge Wicked the movie has too with bringing home Best Picture. But I think the advantage they have is that, LA is going through a really horrific time, right? And if people are going to watch these performances that are nominated, what are you most likely to want to watch, right? And what's the movie you're most likely to want to watch at a really difficult time? Is it The Brutalist? The Brutalist is a great movie, but it's a tough hang, right? Like, it's not an uplifting movie. It's not going to make you feel better when all of your friends' houses burn down. So the advantage Wicked has and Cynthia Erivo has and Ariana has is the watchability, right? The fact that when you're going through a tough time, that's the movie you'd probably be most likely to still watch and then remember, right? I think that's why I think it might win Best Picture. That's my sneaky prediction.
I like that. Okay, so I'm going to throw in my prediction. I think it's going to be The Brutalist, but this is such an early call. I think it's going to be The Brutalist. I haven't watched it yet. I've been waiting for the perfect day. I just want to block out a whole day. Go see it because it's about, 3.5 hours?
It's really long. That's the other thing. Like, I wonder if so many of the Academy members have lost their housing and been evacuated, or their friends have, and they've got a lot on their mind. Are people going to have 3.5 hours to watch a movie this year? Time is a luxury.
You make a very good point, Sarah. Absolutely. Here's the reason why I think maybe it has a chance, because it's about the American dream. And what does Hollywood love more than a movie about the American dream, especially at a time like this politically? And it's an immigrant story, and it's a white immigrant story. Even more thrilling for the Academy. Also, it's a big, big return for Adrian Brody. Which I really enjoy him. So I also hope that he wins that Best Actor trophy. But it's kind of been the movie that's won the most, I would say, from what I can tell, almost overall love. Like, it's rare to kind of find, even for the running length, nobody's really calling that out. Everyone's saying, no, it's perfect. So I wonder if that might be the one. I gotta go see it myself. Because I gotta say, I'm not a fan of the length. I think that's a little too much. And I know the director Brady Corbet said at the Golden Globes that his whole speech was like, let's give filmmakers director's cut. Like, let's let them do what they want to do. I'm like, no, sir, no. Like, we all
it's too self-indulgent. It's too self-indulgent. That's the thing. The length is my problem with it, because it should be a mini series. If you can't tell your story in 2.5 hours or less, it's not a movie, in my opinion. That is my controversial opinion. People can disagree with me, but I think that is not a movie. If I can't, like, if they're, if I need to take 3 bathroom breaks, it's not a movie. It is a mini series. And you can go sell it to HBO and then win the Emmy for Best Limited Series. That is my opinion about it. That's my take. Having said that, it is obviously beautifully made. I'm happy for Adrian Brody because for years, and I haven't really researched why this is, if it's just bad decisions or he had some personal struggles, he has not lived up to his potential.
Yeah.
Right? This is a man who, at such a young age, won a Best Actor Oscar. He's very handsome, right? He wears a Xenia suit well. He had that Xenia endorsement deal. I couldn't figure out why he wasn't making excellent movies consistently and why he wasn't doing great work. I mean, the man was like a minor character on Peaky Blinders. Like, what was happening?
I think he's also like, he's got a specific look to him. Like, you and I are very attracted to him, but I think we're a minority. I think he's got not only a specific look to him, but a specific kind of sound and style. And to me, it feels very kind of old school. And maybe that's why he works so well in period dramas. And also, by the way, I don't think period dramas like The Brutalist or his previous film, what was it called?
Oh, The Pianist.
The Pianist. Sorry. Okay, yeah. So The Brutalist and The Pianist, I feel like both of them are not the kinds of dramas we see nowadays, ever.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just like The Brutalist feels like it came from 15 years ago. It's kind of amazing to me. So, and by the way, which is another reason why I think that it's got a good chance for Best Picture. Also, as much as we don't like a long runtime, Hollywood loves a little bit of self-indulgence, right? They love a filmmaker who says, I don't want to cut this short. They love that shit.
Yeah,
by the way, I want to also kind of speak for the other side of it because I'm South Asian. I love a Bollywood movie. Bollywood movies are generally about 3 hours. And for Bollywood movies, for South Asian movies, we know that that's just how it is. That's the default, right? You're not, if something's shorter than that, that's a little strange. Like, what's going on there? And they come with a built-in intermission. With The Brutalist, it's one of the first movies here in this kind of time period that's come with an intermission, and that to me was a real thrill. Like, I can't wait to be at the intermission because I just think that's such a fun kind of old school and very kind of more diverse approach to movies, but I'm just not used to it. My body's not used to it. And The Brutalist is not a Bollywood movie. Bollywood movies are like these fun, vibrant musicals. The Brutalist is The Brutalist. It's gritty. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, 3 hours with a fun musical is different than 3.5 hours with a harrowing drama. So I just feel like that is the salient difference here.
It's a big one. It's a big
in my opinion. That's the big difference. But you made me realize something. Adrian Brody is the male Keira Knightley. So he came up at a time when period pieces were big and lots of prestige pictures were period pieces, right? And that was that's what suited him for some reason, or that's what Hollywood wanted to cast him as. That's how they saw him. And then those went out of fashion. And so Keira Knightley is having a hard time too. Although Keira Knightley wants to do contemporary pieces and tries to, but for some reason everyone thinks she looks too much like she's stepped out of a Regency or a period drama. And I think that's the same problem Adrian Brody might be having.
That's a very good point. Oh my God, imagine a movie with the two of them together. I would love to see that. Anyway.
But I want it to be contemporary. I want them to work together, co-produce it, to prove once and for all that they can do contemporary prestige. And Keira's tried so hard. She's tried so hard to prove she can be contemporary. And I think she can. Laggies, go out and see it. Great movie. Amazing movie. She should have won an Oscar for Laggies. I'm going there. That's my hot take. She should have. I think it's an excellent movie about arrested development in females. It's an excellent movie about, I shouldn't say females. Who am I, Doug Ford? It's an excellent movie about extended adolescence in women, right? And she plays a young 27-year-old with a master's degree who was, academic and smart and high achieving, who just doesn't really want a real job, doesn't want to marry her boyfriend, doesn't want to grow up in the way society expects her to, and starts hanging out with teenagers. Excellent movie. Excellent movie. Keira, you proved yourself to me. Why can't the rest of the world see you the way I see you?
Oh my God. What a gorgeous spiel, Sarah. Thank you. I think that actually perfectly leads us into a quick little break. And when
Mhm.
we come back, I think we got to talk about one particular movie that has very
Mhm.
much polarized the world.
Mhm. Mhm.
But we'll be right back. Okay, we're back. Sarah, have you seen Emilia Perez?
I have not seen the whole thing yet. It's also fairly long, and I have a child, and so it is very hard for me. I've seen so many movies in the best animated feature category. I can say I'm rooting for The Wild Robot, everybody. Excellent movie about motherhood, kind of similar to Night Bitch, but an animated movie.
It's
So
beautiful.
I
Yeah,
have
The Wild
not
Robot's
seen the whole
lovely.
thing. Sadaf, can you explain to me, because I have seen some of the debate online, but I'm reluctant to weigh in because I haven't seen the whole thing. Can you explain to me what this debate is about Emilia Perez?
Happy to, because I watched it specifically because I wanted to get myself educated. Well, first of all, I always watch all of them. But this one I was really keen to because I love a musical and I'd heard it was kind of a musical.
Mm-hmm.
Um just very intrigued. But then upon watching, wow, my body, my brain, my soul went through the most challenging emotional journey I perhaps have ever gone through in watching this
Wow.
movie. Yeah. Okay, so it's on Netflix. I'm not going to spoil it, but I'll give you the gist. So essentially, it follows the story of a trans mafia boss who decides to go through, who by the way has been a low-key trans, has not told any of the many men who work for them, understandably, because they work in, how do I put this, a very brutal industry. So this mafia boss decides to fake their death and go through an actual transitional surgery and live life in every possible way as a woman. And that character is played by Carla Gascon, who is fantastic. And Zoe Saldana plays her lawyer, who helps kind of guide her through the process. Zoe is so phenomenal. I love Zoe.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I'm very much not a fan of this film, I'm very thrilled for Zoe. And then Selena Gomez, who I have to address because she's a part of the controversy, she plays the former wife of the mafia boss. So here's the thing: Selena's performance is horrendous. Like, it's very bad, Sarah. Like,
I was just gonna say, like, I find her very wooden. I don't think she can act, and she seems like a nice person. Actually, I don't know. Does she? I'm not sure. I don't know. I hate criticizing people like that and saying they're just not good at all at what they do, but she's not good at what she does.
She's, quite frankly, and I say this just, it's an observation, she's abysmal. I mean, it's actually one of the most astounding poor performances I have ever seen. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be that mean and harsh, but it's just it's so horrific.
Yeah.
There's a moment where a friend of mine pointed this out, where she turns around and looks right in the lens of the camera, and it doesn't seem intentional. It seems accidental, and yet the shot was kept in. It constantly sounds like she's reading off cue cards.
Yeah.
Like, her emotional side has not caught up with the words. She sounds, as you said, very wooden. And then, as the Spanish world has pointed out, she's not a native Spanish speaker.
Mm-hmm.
So, and as she said, she was learning her lines in Spanish for this movie and was trying her best. I can't speak to how well she spoke it because I don't speak Spanish, but I think we can trust the Latin community when they say that it was very poorly done.
Yeah.
So part of the things, there's a few things that are highly problematic with this movie. So we'll start there. The director is the very acclaimed French director, Jacques Audiard, and he's making a Spanish language movie in Mexico. And he's even said that he didn't even research anything about Mexican culture or people. He just decided to go ahead and shoot there and shoot those people. And he's made a few denigrating comments too about the culture and the people, which is not great, especially if you're trying to represent them. And they've said themselves that they don't feel at all represented by this movie. Here's the other thing: it is incredibly problematic when it comes to the queer representation. Oh my gosh, it's messy. I mean, the premise alone is really, really tricky. I don't think there's a better word for that. But there's a lot of difficult messaging in showing this character, Carla Gascon's character, Emilia Pérez, who, but once she transitions, seems to become a savior of the people, and a savior who was the same person prior who was like killing all of them and murdering them.
Yeah. I'm like, am I really supposed to root for this person? Like, it just, wanting all people to be able to transition is different from then if a really evil person transitions, being like, now you're a hero because you transitioned. Like, you can still be a bad person who went through personal struggles.
Exactly. It's a shit show, dare I say. Like, there were so many times where I burst out in laughter, and I watched this movie alone with my dog, okay? And I would just keep laughing at what was happening. The ending is even worse than anything you could possibly imagine. I won't spoil it. But if you're curious, go watch it. It's on Netflix, or just go read the Wikipedia summary, because oh wow. Anyway, it's horrific, but it got so many nominations. It keeps getting them, including for the director, including for actually in this case Selena Gomez didn't get a nomination, which some people are considering a snub. It's not a snub. It's not a snub.
No, it's not. If you've seen anything she's ever done, like, Only Murders in the Building, any of the teen movies she did back in the day, the woman cannot act. And that's fine. That's fine. Not everyone has to be able to act. I just wish, like, she's super rich. Why does she need to keep trying to make that happen?
She also has a beauty business. She does so much nonprofit work. I don't understand this compulsion. I mean, or, like, stick with Only Murders, because I think that really caters to who she is. She gets to kind of be herself in that show, but I don't know. I'm confused by the rest of it. I also feel like Jacques Audiard, who also previously did a film also set in South Asia with South Asian actors. I haven't seen it. I can't speak to it, but I do have questions when a white man wants to keep shooting and filming in other cultures and he doesn't know enough about it. I don't know that that's a smart idea. Please go on.
I was just going to say, the fact that he was nominated and John M. Chu wasn't shows you the Academy's racial bias, right? They're so impressed by Europeans, and especially when Europeans make something that feels a bit more Hollywood. And yeah, he just sounds like a jerk, right? Like, he just sounds like a total asshole. And I mean, I'm not super familiar with him. I haven't read that many interviews, but his comments have not been great.
No, and I think he's also a bit lazy. I mean, sure, he put together a whole kind of semi-musical, and it's shot in many different places. It is visually gorgeous, but I still think it's lazy to not even research the place where you want to set this film. It ends up feeling like you're exoticizing the culture. I don't like it. And the movie is probably one of the worst movies I've genuinely ever seen. That's kind of largely why everybody is so shocked by all of this. But I think, Sarah, you said it best. Like, I think Hollywood is really easily glammed by seeing something that looks so great and looks so polished and sounds so amazing. And if it has a white guy behind it, then it's easier for them to support it. But honestly, Wicked, I would even say, is kind of this is maybe an odd thing to suggest, but I think it's maybe the best parallel film to this one, because it also tackles the general theme of feeling like an outsider. And I don't want to spoil anything, although can you really spoil Wicked all these years later? But anyway.
Yeah, everyone knows the plot.
Yeah, it's just so much better with similar messaging, and it's an actual musical done right, and it's got diverse cast. The music is so much better. The music in Emilia Pérez is also fucking horrific. Like, the song that's been nominated for an Oscar, I actually don't mind so much, but it's really abysmal. Honestly, every element is bad. But Zoe was great. If Zoe wins, I'm happy for her, because she's, I think, been long underestimated and has spent her life in franchises and is finally breaking out. If this movie is what it takes to get Zoe Saldana out there, then fine. I'll allow it.
No, and you know what? I don't fault her for the movie being problematic at all, because, like, take the parts you're offered as an actor, right? That's especially when you're an actor like Zoe Saldana, who, like, no one is giving her a chance to do meaningful work. So I do have a lot of goodwill towards her, and I want her to do well. And, if she wins, that'll be great. But yes, I'm not super thrilled to see this movie. I'm going to watch it because I, like you, watch all the nominated movies. But that's the other thing. I hadn't really pushed myself to watch it, because if I wanted to watch a musical, there's Wicked, right? So I saw Wicked.
Yeah.
And then if you really want to watch something a little bit more dramatic and a little bit more artistic, there are plenty of nominated movies that are like that. So it never really was scratching the itch for me. One last thing about a movie I'm happy was nominated is Conclave. I'm so happy Ralph Fiennes got his nomination for Best Actor. And I would like him to win. He is the person where I am really rooting for him. I think that whole movie hinges on his performance. It's an underrated movie. It's not going to win Best Picture, even though it's the movie that made me think the most this year. So I would love it if it took home a Best Actor award for Rafe.
I love that so much. I haven't seen it yet. That's another one where I'm just kind of waiting for the perfect moment where I have nothing going on. I could just sit and enjoy it. I can't wait for that one. Yeah, there's definitely some good, beautiful picks in there. There are. I think, Sarah, that brings us to the end of this week's episode.
I think so too. Okay. Great. So that's the end of the episode. Where can our listeners find you?
Listeners can find me at _Sadaf Hassan. And you can listen to The Reheat for free on the Seeker app. You can also find the show on the Frequency Podcast Network or wherever you get your podcasts. Sarah, where can our listeners find you?
Listeners can find me for now at Instagram, and my handle is at Sahagian Sarah. We'll see if that continues. And if you liked this podcast, please rate, review, and subscribe so other listeners can find us too. And if you'd like us to keep growing, we would really love for you to support us on Patreon at patreon.com/thereheat, where we've got so many goods in store for you. Thanks for listening.